This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by John Rawling here in beautiful sunny London. John, first and foremost, how have you been keeping obviously over these past few months?
Good. Lots of walking, bit of golf, not enough boxing, but great to be back here and talking the sport we love once again.
We've obviously seen boxing return just over a week ago when Brad Foster fought James Beach. Just to start there, what was your thoughts on the first card back in the UK?
I didn't think it was bad, to be honest. Top of the bill was a really good fight, Foster and Beach. Beach made it a really competitive scrap, and Foster had to really dig in. It was a very good British title fight. You often find that these British titles are fantastic scraps, and this was no different. I think everybody was wondering what it was going to be like without the crowds, how well it was going to come across. But, a lot of people messaged me and texted me about watching it, and I think people enjoyed it. Obviously, they were delighted to see that boxing was back, but I think people thought, that with good camera work and listening into the corners and the commentary, hopefully, that me and Richie were providing, that, the crowd wasn't missed too much.
How did you find, obviously, the experience of not seeing the crowd there and having you could hear everything that was going on in and around the fight, you could hear the corners, a very different experience and atmosphere to what we're used to. How did you find it?
I enjoyed it because it does tell you quite a lot when you can really hear what the corners are saying, what the instructions are. You don't miss anything. I enjoyed it. It's different, of course, but I don't think it detracted from the enjoyment of the contests at all.
Now, obviously, we're here today because there's two fights which we're going to have a press conference for. Start off with this coming Saturday's fight, Joyce versus Ballech. Just talk to me about that and what should we expect from Michael?
Well, Michael Ballech is a big lad, as you'll see. I mean, he's not far off Joe Joyce's size. Maybe not quite as tall, but he's of similar stature. He's only had 3 defeats in 23 fights. He's a tough guy. And this is what Joe needs, a proper workout and a proper competitive fight before he moves on to fight Daniel Dubois. And hopefully Michael's going to be sufficiently rugged and dangerous to actually give Joe some very much needed rounds, competitive rounds.
Who do you feel, obviously, there is more pressure on? We know that both Daniel and Joe get set up to face each other later this year, provided they both come through their bouts in the coming weeks. But who do you see there being more pressure on, Daniel or Joe?
Well, I think there's pressure on both of them, isn't there? Daniel's been so much hyped, but he's in against a guy in Eric Pfeiffer who's got a very impressive amateur record. He's 7-0. He's twice been a World Championship bronze medalist. He's competed in a couple of Olympics. He's got a couple of victories on his record against the Olympic champion, Tony Yoka, the Frenchman who beat Joe Joyce in the final in Rio. So, this guy is no slouch. It's a proper fight, and Daniel needs something competitive, and he's going to get it.
Moving forwards, obviously another fight which I want to get your thoughts on. He hasn't officially kind of had a date announced, but it's Sadiq and Lerone Richards. We know that they've both agreed to the fight. It's kind of been postponed because of Lerone's got other commitments at the minute. But how excited are you for us to see that fight as well?
Good fight, isn't it? A very good matchup. It's the definition of a good fight is always when you can make an argument either way, and I think you can do for that one. It's one that, it's one for the boxing purists, isn't it? It's one that people who really follow the sport will look forward to because both the lads fancy it and both believe that they're the superior guy. So it's going to be a good one.
Obviously, we shows returning behind closed doors now, a very different kind of feel to what we're used to with the sport. Even today, obviously, socially distanced press conference. How long do you feel it will be, or how long do you feel that boxing will be affected by the current circumstances?
Well, I mean, Boris Johnson is saying that we're going to be having crowds coming back in October. I mean, maybe sooner than that. Whether or not we're going to be having full stadia is another question. But the country is slowly getting there. And hopefully there's been big announcements this week about the research bringing us closer to the vaccine, which everybody hopes is going to be introduced and that everybody's going to get. We're moving towards that, and I think that certainly by this time next year we'll be back to normal, or as normal as you can get.
I just wanted to touch on, obviously we saw a photo, I think it was yesterday or the day before, of Joshua and Fury seeing each other out on their holidays. A lot of people talking about that potential fight for 2021. He came out that they'd agreed financial terms in principle for 2 bouts in 2021. But how realistic do you think it is that we will see both Fury and AJ in an undisputed fight come next year?
I think it's going to happen. I think it's got to happen because it's such a big fight. It's the one everybody's talking about. They've both got a fight to get rid of first, and then move on to that. Where it's going to be, when it's going to be, we will see. But everybody has their own opinion about how it's going to pan out. I know what I think. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting fight, and it's going to be one of the most marketable fights that we've ever seen.
John, we will leave that there now, then. I will leave you to enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. It's always been a pleasure to speak to you. It's been brilliant. It makes a change from our usual UK weather, but John, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for giving up some time and speaking to Boxing Social.
No problem.